Good morning, good afternoon. Hope I'm in the right group. Am I in the right group? If you're there, say hi. I will maybe wait for a couple of people to join. I'm just going to check that I'm live in the group. And then I can answer questions. Hopefully somebody will join live. Yes, I am live, it would appear. Okay, so I am going to start right away. If you're watching on replay or if you're watching now and it hasn't appeared, say hi, because that will kind of draw attention to this live, and so more people will see that it's happening and hopefully more people will join us. And yeah, if you're watching on replay, put hashtag replay or hello. Don't have to do hashtag replay. Okay. I thought I'd printed out my wrong notes then, but I haven't. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about hair loss and what we can do about it. Why it tends to happen. Hi, Debs. Thank you. Why it tends to happen and what things that we can do about it. Put my glasses on. So it's really common. The reason I decided to talk about it is a few reasons. First of all, it's really common in hypothyroidism. It often comes up in clients' list of symptoms. Although I do notice that quite often people actually won't mention it. I think, sometimes we think, oh, is it something that really I should be talking about? Maybe they're a bit embarrassed, or maybe they don't want to appear vain. But actually, it's very much kind of part of our identity, our hair, and it can be really, really upsetting when you see that it's starting to fall out. So it's just as valid as all the other symptoms. So yeah, it's really common in hypothyroidism. Hi, Misha. It's very common in perimenopause as well. So a lot of my clients are around perimenopause, menopause age. But also I did have a client not long ago who was 18 who was experiencing quite a lot of hair loss, and that we sorted out with by helping thyroid, basically. So I'm going to be talking about the thyroid, but also a bit about perimenopause and some other reasons. And also one of the reasons I'm doing it is that I have recently experienced a bit of hair loss, bit of more than I'm happy with. And so I'm doing some of these things, so I thought it was a good time to address it. And also I could do a bit of research, see if there's anything else that I should be doing. But remember, with hair loss, which I'll talk about in a second, it's what happened kind of a little while ago that will actually affect. That's when you'll see, not with every type of hair loss, but the type of hair loss that we're talking about today, the effects of something that happened like a few months ago will be seen in your hair falling out, more of it falling out. So basically, daily hair loss is normal. You're supposed to, the normal amount is losing about 50 to 100 hairs a day, but you won't necessarily notice this unless you've kind of got white bedding and you've got very dark hair, for example. So there's 3 phases of hair growth. There's the anagen phase, which is growth, and this can be between 2 and 6 years. But it differs for everybody, and that's why some people can grow their hair really long and other people can't. And then there's the catagen phase, which is like a transitional 10-day phase. Nothing really happens. And then there's the telogen phase, which is when it's a rest period, and it's usually about 3 months. And this is when natural shedding occurs and hair is released. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen to every hair in your head at the same time, because that would be quite horrific. But all different times. So, as I said before, when you do notice there's more hair coming out, it can be really disconcerting. Our hair is linked to our self-esteem, our body image, our identity. It's, as I say, it's so important to, do something about. and to consider as a valid health issue. It is really common. So apparently up to around 50% of women will experience some of this hair loss in their lifetime. Okay, so I'm going to get on to the reasons. And first of all, I'll talk about the thyroid, obviously. So it is common in hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism in Hashimoto's, so the autoimmune version of hypothyroidism, and Graves', which is the autoimmune version of hyperthyroidism. And and basically this is kind of because the ineffective when thyroid hormone is ineffective or there isn't enough of it, then it can affect the development of the hair at the root, and so that affects the growth basically. Also, what is very common alongside autoimmune thyroid disease is alopecia areata, which is also an autoimmune condition. And this is where you get patches of hair loss. And this also, some of your hair may not grow back if you have this form of hair loss, because scarring can happen. I'm not really going into that particularly today, but I'm still going to touch on it. But yeah, that is an autoimmune condition, and it requires an autoimmune, the way we'd look at autoimmune conditions, like the way I look at autoimmune thyroid disease. So in all of these instances that I've mentioned so far, anything you're doing to help your thyroid, so anything that I say on my Instagram, in this group, in my group program, or anything you're doing that's reducing the autoimmune attack and the triggers and inflammation, is going to help. And that also includes focusing on thyroid-specific nutrients that are needed for thyroid hormone production and thyroid hormone conversion, which I talk about a lot. So basically it's kind of an overall supporting the thyroid health is going to help if this is directly linked to your thyroid, your hair loss is directly linked to your thyroid. Now, the reasons that are not directly linked to the thyroid, I'm going to go into now, although as with all thyroid symptoms, hair loss can be caused indirectly by inefficient thyroid function, because the thyroid slows everything down, makes everything a little bit less effective. Then, there can be steps in between that kind of basically mean, for example, if your digestion isn't working that well, then you're not, because of your thyroid, so it's slower, you're not going to be getting the nutrients as quickly, or you're not necessarily get all your nutrients that you need for hair to grow. So first of all, there's a few which are linked to hormones. Obviously, thyroid hormone is a hormone, but this is more reproductive hormones. So first of all, you probably all know about postpartum hair loss. I'm not going to go into that. Usually that recovers and you get your hair growth goes back to normal. And so perimenopause. So basically what happens in perimenopause is that estrogen and progesterone are decline. And they are what actually keeps hair in the growing phase. So that, excuse me, so that it grows faster and stays on your head longer. So when they decline, basically growth slows and hair loss can be more obvious. Also, because estrogen and progesterone are declining, there's a balance with androgens, the male hormones, reproductive hormones, and it means relatively there's more of the male reproductive hormones. And higher androgens actually mean that hair follicles are shrunk, and this can cause hair loss. So that's kind of at the bottom of it. Also wanted to mention, because Misha, you actually left a message recently, coming off the pill will mean that also that your female hormone levels will decline temporarily, usually, because your body just needs to come back into balance. So it could well be, as a result of coming off the pill, that you could lose some hair. But this should sort itself out, within a few months or so. So female pattern hair loss, or FPHL, is basically where your hairline and by the way, I'm leaving kind of what we do about it right till the end. I'm kind of just giving you all the kind of background as to what happens. So female pattern hair loss is where the hairline and the crown are usually affected, and this is usually related to the androgens again, so testosterone, etc. And they basically, as I say, shrink or miniaturize hair follicles. And this happens in PCOS. So if you have PCOS or you know anyone who has, this can be a big problem. And that leads on to insulin resistance, which is very often linked to PCOS. But insulin resistance is very common anyway. And this is where you end up with basically your cells are resistant to insulin, and so your pancreas keeps pumping more and more insulin into your bloodstream. So you get high levels of insulin, and this appears to increase androgens as well. So it's important here to consider blood sugar balance, but as well as hormone balance. And I'll come on to how shortly. And then the other thing that can cause female pattern hair loss appears to be, I don't think there's that much research on this, but like a dysbiosis in the hair follicles of bacteria. So dysbiosis is like an imbalance of bacteria. You get it in your gut. That's the most common place that I would be talking about it. But you can also get it in the hair follicles. So it means that basically there's too many kind of bad bacteria that can cause inflammation. It's the same as in inflammatory acne. And if you may have experienced, like you can get kind of spots on your head. And if people who get a lot of those, this is likely to be happening. And also there are mites apparently, but I couldn't find that much research on those. But I will come on to what you could do about that in a bit. Then I wanted to talk about the Mirena coil, because even though, again, there isn't a huge amount of research on this, it is a known side effect of having the Mirena coil hair loss. So it's something to know about. Also, other hormone treatments. So there's certain things people take to treat endometriosis. And fibroids, and also progestin-only birth control. These can all potentially contribute to hair loss. So do remember, though, again, that everything can take a few months to show. And that brings me on to another cause or trigger, which is stress. So what you can do is, if stress may be, I would always consider it as a trigger. Look back, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, was there anything that happened that was particularly stressful? I mean, for all of us, there was like a big pandemic. But yeah, around that time, and also obviously, that's been going on for a long time, the pandemic. So stress and illness. So high cortisol. When we're stressed on a kind of chronic basis, we get high cortisol, and although you can also get low cortisol. But so high cortisol is kind of characterized by anxiety, heart palpitations, sugar cravings, high blood pressure, feeling quite wired. And then also, just kind of like any kind of chronic stress that you feel that your mind was under, or your body. Your body basically senses this, knows this is happening, and decides to conserve energy, like cellular energy. And so one of the places it can do that, rather, is in hair growth. It takes a lot of energy to grow hair. And so this basically can be your body in survival mode, saying, oh no, hair's not important at the moment because, you know, we're dealing with this other stuff. Also, stress uses up B vitamins and zinc a lot faster, and they are necessary for hair growth. Another thing which is actually stress on the body is calorie restriction. So fasting, cleansing, under eating, cutting out your carbs completely, and then things like anorexia. Again, your body just goes into survival mode and will kind of try and conserve energy stop kind of, not stop, but reduce the energy going towards hair growth. The other thing about calorie restriction is that if you're restricting calories, you're likely to be restricting nutrients. And nutrient deficiencies in general are another thing that's important to look at. So things like B12, which are, hold on a minute, I'm just checking, I mentioned this earlier. Yeah, so B12, vitamin B12, zinc, and healthy fats. And then the big one is iron. Now this is a really big one that I would check kind of first of all when it comes to hair loss. So women in particular, can be iron deficient quite easily if they have heavy periods and have had for a while. Although I know plenty of women who don't have heavy periods but have still, you know, low iron. Also, if they've got, you know, digestive issues, leaky gut, which leaky gut you don't necessarily have any symptoms, or if you've been pregnant. If you've been pregnant not that long ago and you were anemic and had to take iron in your pregnancy, then keep a check on that, because we basically need iron to be optimal to stop hair loss for a lot of women. Also, if you have fibroids, then there'll be excess bleeding there, and so that again uses up more iron. Okay, on to what can we do about it. The bit you've all been waiting for. I'm just going to have a bit of my smoothie. So, so the thyroid triggers and the autoimmune triggers. So as I say, all the stuff that I talk about all the time anyway, but be super careful with things like gluten, and also gluten in thickening shampoos. It's used quite a lot in thickening shampoos to thicken hair. So watch out for that, because that could be a big problem. And also using kind of more natural products on your hair. You know, some of these, a lot of the high street products have loads of different chemicals in, which, you know, could for you be a problem. Also, thyroid, make sure that your TSH, so your thyroid stimulating hormone, is between 0.5 and 2. You want to get that optimal. Again, if it's not optimal, so a lot of when you get tested at the GP, a lot of the time it's kind of has to be under 4 to be considered normal, but that's not optimal, and so that may mean that you need to adjust your medication and do some lifestyle things in order to get it down to under 2. Another thing you can do is switch your thyroid medication. Usually the problem with if you're, sorry, my hair's looking really frizzy. Usually the problem, so when people are taking normal levothyroxine and they don't feel any better, but then they manage to get a different form, so either like a liquid form of levothyroxine or a what else? Sorry, I just saw a text and now it's completely put me off. Or they get T3, for example, and they feel a lot better. This usually means that they are not converting very well in the body. So levothyroxine is T4. When the thyroid makes thyroid hormone, we make 90% T4, but the cells primarily use T3. So we need this conversion to happen of T4 to T3. And this needs certain nutrients to happen, but it takes place in the gut and in the liver. So if those places aren't functioning as well as they might be, then conversion can be a problem. So yeah, so that's another thing, is look at conversion. Then stress. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff I advocate and say anyway, but you know, having self-care, having clear boundaries, work-life boundaries, prioritizing sleep. As I said, look at what happened 6 months ago. Nourish adrenals, you know, with kind of a daily meditation practice if you can. Deep breaths. If you're a step away from meditation, go for the deep breaths to start with. A yoga teacher said to me the other day that the slower that we breathe, the safer your body feels, which I think is great. So if we breathe slowly, your body thinks everything is fine. I don't need to be in survival mode. And so if we can do that on a regular basis, it just, you know, it reassures the body everything's okay and it can function well and it can do its healing and all that good stuff. Then there are some calming herbs you could take, you know, like in tea form, even like lavender, chamomile. Then there's adaptogen herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola, holy basil. Okay, and then onto the high androgens, so the high male hormones. So there are medications you can take, but that's be through a doctor, and also they do have side effects. So, you know, I would try natural first. Zinc and green tea extract are good, have been shown to reduce 5-alpha reductase, which is an enzyme which helps androgens be produced, the male hormones be produced. So yeah, so they can be helpful. That's zinc and green tea extract. And then things like phytoestrogen, so things like flaxseed, taking them on a daily basis. So a phytoestrogen is a plant estrogen, so it acts kind of like estrogen in the body. Then what's your sugar and carb intake? Balance blood sugar, you know, so you can reduce the risk of insulin resistance. And also, you know, not having too much sugar, because sugar can be inflammatory, and you know, it can mean your scalp, for example, is inflamed. And then yeah, just making sure you eat enough protein. Hair is made out of protein. Dysbiosis in the hair follicles, so that kind of bacteria imbalance, and also the mites. You can get antibacterial shampoo. Just watch which one you buy, because some of them will have really harsh ingredients in them. So I go for something like a tea tree shampoo or something, or colloidal silver. Then yeah, the calorie restriction. Well, first of all, you know, get out of that survival mode, stop the restrictions, and pay extra attention to your nutrient intake. So having things like smoothies for a boost, and also supplements. So multivitamin can be really helpful. Make sure it's a really good quality one. If you're not sure of the levels, then you can always take a prenatal, because they have real kind of good boost of like key nutrients. So yeah, prenatal vitamin, but then you'll get questions asked, won't you? And just have to stick another label on it or something. And yeah, nutrient deficiencies in general. So B12, you get that in animal products. Remember, if you're a vegan, you have to take a supplement, or fortified foods, although the fortified foods are generally processed, so I wouldn't probably go for those. And also, yeah, if you don't eat much in the way of animal foods, in the way of meats or eggs or fish, then you may need to look at that. Zinc is in seeds, nuts, chickpeas, whole grains. Again, you can supplement. There is a company called Lambert's that does a supplement called Zincotest, and it's a liquid zinc, and you can actually take it, and you have to take it on an empty stomach, I think, or when you haven't eaten recently, in water, and you swirl it around in your mouth, and basically it's a test. It tells you whether you've got low levels of zinc or not, which could be really helpful because so many people are low in zinc, and zinc is really important for hair growth. Then healthy fats, really important. Should be eating fish, walnuts, chia seeds, avocado, eggs, olive oil. If you're not eating things like that, then definitely go for at least an omega-3 supplement. Also selenium, very important for thyroid health and thyroid hormone production. And then the iron, yes. So what you need to do is get a ferritin test, which your GP should do. And ferritin is iron storage, and you need it to be above 70. So between 70 and 150 ng per milliliter. And this, for a lot of people, sorts out their hair loss straight away. Not straight away. It will take a while, but you know what I mean. Collagen, there's not much research on this, but a lot of people are reporting thicker hair from collagen use. You can also make bone broth, get your collagen that way. Biotin, people always wonder about biotin. It's in all those supplements, but there is hardly any evidence that supplementing with biotin will help. You have to be like properly deficient in biotin in order to benefit from a supplement, and this rarely happens. It's in all, it's in all the foods. It's in meat, eggs, fish, seeds, nuts, vegetables. Then rosemary or peppermint oil. Some people have reported that this is really helpful. You can add like the essential oil. Don't use it neat, but add it to shampoo or a hair conditioner mask thing or something. Make sure it gets right to the scalp though. Basically, they're very stimulatory oils, and they can stimulate growth. So yeah, don't use undiluted, and don't use too much. And then finally, castor oil, which can be really helpful for hair growth. Very oily again, but you can put it on your hair, or also put it in your eyebrows, eyelashes, and that can help growth too. So that's it. Let me know if you've got any questions. As happens very often, it can often, hair loss can need a kind of multi-pronged approach. It can be a bit frustrating because it can take quite a while to see the results of what you're doing. So you may never know exactly what helped, but hopefully something will. As I say, I would start with the ferritin and TSH and stress. And then, look at any of these other things. I was about to go over the other things, but then I'm just telling you the talk all over again. Let me know if you've got any questions. I'll check on my computer to see if anyone said anything. No. But it's, as I say, it can be frustrating because you can't see the results straight away, but there are a lot of things, as you can hear, that you can do about it. Sometimes hormone balance may need a little bit more help. There is a test, I've done it again, hormone. It's because I've got thyroid on the brain constantly. There's a hormone test called the Dutch test, which stands for dried urine something, can't remember. I'm going to look it up. And it's really kind of the gold standard of hormone testing. And it tests for cortisol, but it also tests your reproductive hormones, and it's just incredibly insightful. It's way better than anything you'll get at the doctor. Okay, it stands for dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. And when I've done these with clients in the past, you can get a real insight as to what is going on with your male hormones and your female hormones and why, and you can act accordingly. Karen, zinc supplements have made me nauseous in the past. Any idea why? Definitely take them with food. They will do that on an empty stomach. That's quite common. Let me know if you have taken it in the past. If you have taken it with food. Maybe, you know, and even if maybe if you did take it with food, maybe it was not enough. Maybe you need to have it with a meal. Yeah, let me know. Can testosterone supplementing as part of HRT affect hair loss? Yes, I think it probably can. Do you know what? When I was researching for this, there's something I read about that. Yeah, it may do. But thing is, the reason that you're supplementing testosterone is because your levels are too low. That should be the case. If you know if you've been given testosterone, you know, for the right reasons, then it shouldn't actually cause hair loss. If you're just trying it out to see if it helps other things, there's potential. If it's helping, is it helping what you wanted it to help in the first place? But yeah, it is, as I've said, that is one of the reasons, is having high androgens, of which testosterone is one. However, yeah, as I say, if your levels are okay and your testosterone was low, then that's not going to make them high. It's just going to make them okay, in which case it may be one of the other reasons. It may be your iron, it may be nutrients, stress, thyroid. Any more questions? I'm going to tell you what's in my smoothie while I'm waiting. Oh, here we go. Yes, thanks. Yes, as testosterone was at 0.4, hence causing fatigue, that was improving. So I wondered about my hair. Have a long-term iron deficiency too. We'll try zinc with food. Yeah, well, if the iron, iron is your priority. This is the most common reason, I would say, in, you know, anecdotally from my experience. So yeah, you get your ferritin tested and take a supplement, but take one that's, you know, going to be absorbed well. So there's a there's a supplement called Hemaplex, HEMA-Plex, which is a good one. It's got like the cofactors, the other nutrients that are needed in order to absorb iron. So that is a really good one. But yeah, I would buy one separately rather than using the ones from the GPs, because they can be very difficult to absorb and can cause constipation. Right, well, I'm going to tell you about my smoothie anyway, and then if there's any more questions, I'll go. So yeah, I've been making smoothies with milk, plant milk, and then the other day I didn't have any, and so I made this one, which I always used to make, but I hadn't for ages. I think it just wasn't very appealing, but it's actually very nice. It's water, apple, celery. I used to put cucumber in, but I didn't have any cucumber, so I put spinach, like a whole block from the frozen spinach, and lemon. Did I say lemon? Lemon is the key. Makes it kind of fresher and just nice. And also flax seeds. And if I'd have had some protein powder, I would have put some protein powder in, but I've run out. And it's nice, fruity. Just not really a hot drink, which is what you need now, isn't it? Okay, guys, I'm going to go. Thanks so much for watching. And if I see any more comments afterwards, or maybe tag me if I don't get to it, and I will come back to it in the group. But thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Oh, yeah, that's it. Thanks. Bye.